This is Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. You can also follow us on YouTube. Our YouTube handle is at LA Rams Up. Hey, we're not insiders here. We're just Rams fans that love talking about our LA Rams. I'm your host, Mark. Let's get to it. Welcome back, Ram fans. Episode 212 of Rams Up coming at you here. We're going to get you primed for this first preseason game, the Rams and the Chargers at SoFi. And this is the first time in a few years that I'm really excited about the preseason. There are a lot more reasons than years past to watch, with all these young guys fighting for roster spots, and a lot of uncertainty from our perspective about how the Rams coaching staff is going to approach these preseason games. Some news to get through, and then we'll talk about that preseason game and the Rams' first unofficial depth chart that was just released. We're also going to continue our opponent focus series, the Indianapolis Colts, on our radar this episode. The Rams have brought back safety John Johnson, their 2017 third-round pick, number 91 overall out of Boston College. Played 4 years for the Rams, one of their leaders on that defense, and he signed a big contract with the Browns. They let him go, and the Rams have brought him back. A solid addition to the secondary. A little bit of a surprise as far as I'm concerned, though. I really like this safety group. Maybe the Rams have some concerns whether their young guys are going to be ready for prime time. Jordan Fuller and Russ Yeast look like they are going to be the starters to me. Quentin Lake reports that he's playing a hybrid safety linebacker position. And then they got the rookie 7th-round pick Jason Taylor and a handful of really promising undrafted free agents. Rashad Torrance, Quindell Johnson, Tanner Engel, and now John Johnson. Throw him into the mix too. A solid, reliable safety. The Rams also signed a tight end, Cameron McDonald. He's out of Florida State, undrafted free agent, originally signed by Green Bay. A little bit undersized, 6'4", 236. He's a guy that can play special teams, though. Not sure if he'll be ready to play by Saturday night. Expect to see him on special teams if nowhere else. Higbee and Hopkins leading that pack. Davis Allen has been slowed by a hamstring. Hunter Long on the physically unable to perform list. Christian Sims and the other tight end, Kalinick, both will probably see some action against the Chargers. They bring in Cameron McDonald, and we'll see if he gets some playing time as well. We definitely will not see any Tyler Higbee, and, well, there might be a Bryson Hopkins sighting, but I kind of doubt that. And that's the big question in this Charger game. I'm not going to talk about strategy or tactics or make any predictions here, but I am interested in who's going to play, and I'm going to make some predictions in that regard. Let's walk through each of these position groups, and we will use this newly released Rams unofficial depth chart as a guide as we walk through this. And the confusing part of this is going to be, we don't know what approach McVay's staff is going to take, right? In years past, if you're a starter, you're not playing. If you're a second stringer, you might not even play. But the Rams are in a unique situation this year. A lot of guys with very limited experience who are projected as starters. Do they need to get them into some preseason games? I think they will, but I'm going to take my best guess here. And a little pet peeve here. Why is this called an unofficial depth chart? The Rams released this. It's a depth chart released by the Rams. I don't know what makes it unofficial, but not going to split hairs over this. Let's get started. At the quarterback position, hey, Matthew Stafford's not playing. And then they have Stetson Bennett or Brett Rypien as the second stringer. And they have this throughout this depth chart, this or statement. Pretty non-committal on who the second stringer is at this point, and I get it, but I think Stetson Bennett's going to get the majority of the playing time. Brett Rypien will also get some series for sure. Dresser Wynn, the fourth string quarterback, he's going to play at some point, but probably not in this opening preseason game. I'm sure they want to get a long look at Stetson Bennett in game situations against NFL competition. The running back position, Cam Akers, I can guarantee you he will not play. Kyron Williams listed as a second stringer, and he is also listed as the kick returner. So there's a good chance he will not play at all, although I'd love to see him. Ronnie Rivers listed as the third string running back. I think that's just a matter of respecting a guy who's returning to the roster from last year. And Royce Freeman and Zach Evans both listed as the fourth stringer. And I think those three are going to get the bulk of the carries, obviously. Rivers, Freeman, and Evans. I want to see Zach Evans. The three starting receivers are Cooper Kupp, Tutu Atwell, and Van Jefferson. Kupp and Jefferson will obviously not play. Tutu Atwell apparently will not either, although I'd love to see him. Love the way he started to stretch the field for the Rams, had a couple of big plays. We talked a little bit about that in my player focus last episode where I talked about Atwell and Skowronek, two guys that were drafted together in 2021. So who are we going to see? Are we going to see Demarcus Robinson? I'm not convinced we will. I think he has sealed his spot on this roster and may not play. He's an experienced guy. Puka Nacua, I think he has definitely secured a spot on this roster as well. He's going to get some playing time, though. Ben Skowronek, a second stringer behind Kupp on this chart. I doubt he will play. Who's going to play then? Nacua, Tyler Johnson, Lance McCutcheon, Tyler Hudson, Braxton Burmeister, Austin Trammell, and Xavier Smith. Xavier Smith is an electric player. I thought he might be a kick returner or a punt returner. That's not the case right now, but see if he can make some big plays in this game against the Chargers. We'll see him for sure. I talked about tight end already. Higbee and Hopkins, the 1-2 punch at tight end, and I doubt either of them play. Hunter Long, the third stringer, on the physically unable to perform list. Davis Allen, who unfortunately has a hamstring issue. Maybe he'll be good to go. Not sure about that. Nikola Kalinick, Christian Sims, and the newly arrived Cameron McDonald will be the tight ends we'll be seeing on the field Saturday night. Now, the offensive line, this is where it gets a little bit dicey. The Rams' starting offensive line, or at least the potential starting offensive line, was posted by someone on Twitter the other day. Somewhat official, I thought. And they said it was going to be Alaric Jackson at left tackle, Steve Avila at left guard, Shelton at center, Tremaine Ankrum at right guard, and Havenstein at right tackle. According to this depth chart, they go to the or statement twice. It's Noteboom or Jackson at left tackle and Brian Allen or Coleman Shelton at center. So apparently that has not been decided yet, which makes perfect sense. Why decide it so early? I don't know if any of these guys are going to play, to be honest with you. I'd like to see Avila out there a little bit. At the same time, if he's as good as advertised, let's evaluate him and get him squared up in these practices against the Broncos and the Raiders. That's just as good at evaluating and getting these guys prepared as preseason games. Reduced risk of injury as well. So whether Avila plays or not, hard to say. Tremaine Ankrum looks like he's winning that job at right guard. Now, if Brian Allen were to beat out Coleman Shelton at the center spot, does Shelton slide over and bump Ankrum? The Rams actually don't have anyone listed behind Brian Allen and Coleman Shelton at center, so maybe they'll split the duties. Maybe we'll see both of those guys. Or maybe one of those other reserves will try their hand at center for a preseason game. Backing up Noteboom and Jackson, I guess he'd technically be the third string left tackles, AJ or Curry. Mike McAllister backing up Avila. I think we'll see a lot of him. Zachary Thomas backing up Ankrum. He'll play a lot. And Logan Bruss, Rob Havenstein's backup right tackle now, and he's a guy that is going to play a lot, I think. Havenstein's not going to see the field for sure, so it's going to be Logan Bruss. And if he's good to go physically, Warren McClendon. The other guys that will see some action are Zachary Thomas and Sean Magan, two backup guards. We'll talk about Logan Bruss a little bit here in a minute and what we might hope to see from him. So that takes care of the offense. We roll over to the defense, and Aaron Donald is a starting defensive tackle. Bobby Brown III or Kobe Turner, there's that or again, the starting nose tackle. I'm still really surprised that Turner's listed as a nose tackle. I guess that's the way they're going to roll with him. and Marquise Copeland or Ernest Brown are the starting defensive end, backed up by Jonah Williams. So do these guys play? Well, we know Aaron Donald's not going to play. Bobby Brown and Kobe Turner, with no one backing them up at nose tackle, not even Teron Vincent. He's listed as a defensive tackle. So maybe both these guys play, see what they show, and the Rams make a decision based on preseason game performance. Who's the starting nose tackle? It's kind of risky, though. Jonah Williams and TJ Carter backing him up at defensive end. They'll both play a lot. And behind Aaron Donald is Laurel Murchison, Deshaun Johnson, and Teron Vincent. They will all play a load for sure. So I'm not sure about Copeland, Ernest Brown, Bobby Brown, and Kobe Turner, but I have a feeling they're all going to have to play a little bit. Now, I may be overthinking the actual position assignments on the depth chart. They may just be throwing 3 defensive linemen out there, mix and match in players as they see fit, just to get guys on the field and get them snaps. And then you get to the edge, Byron Young and Michael Hoyt, the 2 starters. Hoyt may not play, but again, Rams have so much evaluation to do at this position. Maybe they all play. Hoyt, Byron Young, Daniel Hardy, Nick Hampton, the backups, 3rd string, Keir Thomas, and Zach Van Valkenburg. And deep on the depth chart, mostly because of injury, I think, O'Shawn Mathis. I don't think he's ready to play at this point. Ernest Jones and Christian Roseboom listed as the starting inside linebackers. Roseboom might play. Ernest Jones definitely will not. The backups, Jaden Woodby and Jacob Hummel. I think we'll see both of them out there, but we may see even more of Ryan Smenda Jr., Kalechi Anyalabechi, and last on the depth chart at inside linebacker, DeAndre Square. So we'll probably see everybody except Ernest Jones. We may see Christian Roseboom, we may not, but remember with McVay, that's a big clue. If Christian Roseboom doesn't play, he's locked up a roster spot. He's going to be the guy most likely to be playing alongside Ernest Jones, at least at this point. Starting cornerbacks, Kobe Durant, Darion Kendrick, and Akello Witherspoon. I don't think any of them play. Who's going to play? Robert Rochelle, Trey Tomlinson, and Sean Jolly. I think we'll see a lot of them, backed up by Cameron McCutcheon, Tamarcus Davis, Jordan Jones, and Vincent Gray. And the safety position, they still do list Russ East as the starter along with Jordan Fuller. Neither of those will play. I'd be very surprised if they did. Quentin Lake may get some snaps. Here he's been playing a little bit of a hybrid linebacker at times. And then, of course, a newly signed John Johnson, and I don't think he'll play. The rookie draft pick, Jason Taylor, Richard LeCount, a returning player. We'll see a lot of him, along with the undrafted rookies. Guys that have looked really good in camp, they're going to get their chance Saturday night. Rashad Torrance, Quindle Johnson, Tanner Ingle, and Tyon Davis. Before the Johnson signing, I think all of them had a shot at making the roster. Now, I don't know. The depth chart's really filling out at the safety position. And then, of course, the special teamers, Evans, the punter, Brown, the kicker, Alex Ward, the long snapper, Puka Nacua listed as the punt returner, backed up by Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams listed as the kick returner, backed up by Ronnie Rivers. And they could mix in a bunch of guys at those 2 spots. The fact that they're listed there on that depth chart is not a guarantee they're going to actually take on those duties in this game. And that's what makes it so hard, trying to figure out who's going to play and when they're going to play. The way McVay has approached past preseason games, a bunch of these guys would not play, but given the situation, a very special year for our Los Angeles Rams. There's going to be a lot of guys playing that in other years might not. Younger players that have something to prove. Rams just need to see more looks, more snaps for evaluation purposes. So it's really hard to guess. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, though, seeing some of these guys for the first time on an NFL field, the first time at SoFi Stadium. And I'm going to come back in a minute and share with you my fearsome 4 things I want to see in this game. Typically, that would be my fearsome 4 keys to victory. Preseason game, I don't care so much about that, but there are 4 things. Actually, there's going to be more than 4. I think I have 7. 4 things that I want to see in this game, and I'm going to come back Friday night and revisit that topic on the YouTube channel with some videos to supplement the discussion. Check out the YouTube channel Friday night, and we'll rehash this, maybe change it up a little bit. As I mentioned in a previous podcast, we're going to start doing that the night before each game, our Fearsome Four Keys to Victory on the Rams Up YouTube channel. Now, last episode, I alluded to the new format we're going to be starting once the season starts, actually once the preseason starts, and that starts Friday night on the YouTube channel. I'm going to share the Fearsome Four Things I want to see, and here's a preview of what to expect on that. I'm going to share with you my 4 things I want to see in that game, and I'll rehash this Friday night because I'll probably change my mind on a couple of things. What are the Fearsome Four Things I want to see now during the regular season? And this will be the Fearsome Four Keys to the game, the Fearsome Four Keys to Victory for the Rams. But for now, just what I want to see from my Rams in this preseason game. Well, number 1 is pressure off the edge. That's still my biggest concern on this team. Do we have anybody that can get to the quarterback? Michael Hoyt can a little bit, sure. But do any of these other young edge rushers have the ability to get pressure, to generate pressure? I desperately want to see that against the Chargers. The second thing I want to see in this game, just for fun's sake, I want to see Puka Nacua and Zach Evans. Really interested to see what they bring to the table. I suspect Bennett and Puka will be a prime focus of this offense in the Charger game, and I expect them to put up some numbers. Really excited about Nakua's future with this team. Seems to have all the goods, kind of fits that Rams mold of wide receivers. And Zach Evans, I'm not sure if he's going to be a successful NFL running back, but man, you look at some of his highlights in college, there were times where he looked like the real deal for sure. Came out of high school as one of the top-rated running backs in the nation, and the Rams draft him in the 6th round. I want to see him light it up. And if he can't light it up, I want to find out as soon as possible. Like they say in business, fail early so you have time to figure it out. So we have time to figure out our running back depth situation. Puka and Zach, 2 offensive rookies I'm really eager to see Saturday night. The third thing I want to see in this Ram Charger game, I want to see the secondary bring it. I want to see whoever's out there, I want them flying around, breaking up passes, making tackles, closing on receivers. That's what I expect to see, and that's what I'll be looking for. The fourth thing I want to see is an offensive line with some cohesion. I don't know who's going to be out there, so whoever's out there, I just want to see some solid protection, and I want to see some holes opening up. But the one guy I want to see the most is Logan Bress. If he can establish himself as a backup right tackle, that will mean a lot for this team. I feel pretty good about every other player on this offensive line, about 8 deep. I think I have a good feel for what they bring, how reliable they are, how skilled they are, and what the potential end product for this offensive line is. The one thing I am clueless about at this point is Logan Bress and what his NFL future looks like. I'm going to be watching Logan Bress Saturday night. And I know I said the Fearsome Four Things I want to see in this game. I'm going to give you 3 bonus ones, though. There's just too much on the table here. I'm really excited to see Stetson Bennett. He's not going to be a starter this year. He's probably not going to contribute much. But I'm just really excited with his athletic ability, his ability to extend plays, his championship background. Oh, man, I'm really excited to watch him play in a preseason format, in a preseason environment. He's the type of guy that could be really fun to watch as things break down and he makes things happen. Moving around in the pocket, extending plays, and making plays. That's going to be a lot of fun. The second bonus item I want to see is this rookie special team squad. Let's hope that they can pull off all of these punts, field goals, and kickoffs with no snafus. Let's get the uneasiness and uncertainty out of the way in the preseason. That'll make me feel a lot better going into Seattle in that opener, knowing that we have 3 rookies on special teams who can get it done, who have what it takes, not going to fold under the bright lights of the NFL regular season. And the last thing I want to see, I really like the guys that we have on the defensive line, defensive end, nose tackle, and defensive tackle. But I am concerned about our ability to stop the run. We have some proven to do in that respect. A little bit light up front, a lot of young guys, a little bit unproven. I'm hoping that our defensive line plays respectably against the run in this preseason game. Whoever's out there, just to set the tone for this defense as a defense that, although perhaps a little undersized and inexperienced, we have the guys to defend against the run. That could be a big vulnerability on this defensive line, something I'm a little concerned about. So let's get off on the right foot against the Chargers and shut down their running game, preseason game or not. We're going to be back in a minute with our opponent focus on the Indianapolis Colts. And don't forget to check the YouTube channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have some video to share with you as well as we rehash the fearsome 4 things I want to see in this Ram Charger game. Look for that early Friday evening. Continuing our opponent focus series, this episode we're going to check in on an AFC team we'll be playing this year, the Indianapolis Colts. Rams will play at Indianapolis week 4. History between these two teams: Colts hold the edge, 23 wins, 21 losses, and 2 ties. The Rams have won 3 straight. Last time they played, September 21st, 2021. Rams 27, Colts 24. That was also in Indianapolis, a week 2 game. Colts took a 21-17 lead early in the 4th quarter when they recovered a fumble in the end zone. Wasn't really a fumble. That was a play where Nick Scott lined up in front of Johnny Hecker, Rams punting from deep in their own territory. Right before the snap, Scott steps to his left, some kind of alignment adjustment he was making, and the snap glances off of Nick Scott. There's a scrum for the ball. Colts recover it in the end zone and take the lead. The Rams rallied, though. Cooper Kupp got a second TD of the game a couple minutes later, and Jalen Ramsey had a late interception. Carson Wentz was the quarterback in that game, though. That was one of those games similar to the Rams game against the Falcons last year, where they were clearly the better team. But as you're watching this game, you're thinking to yourself, what the heck are we doing? We're doing everything we can to give this game away, but the Rams figured out a way to win. Any special games that should be mentioned between these two teams? I really couldn't think of one. A lot of people probably don't realize this, but the Colts and Rams were in the same division back in the 60s, the old Coastal Division, and they had quite the rivalry. Johnny Unitas versus Roman Gabriel. I don't really recall any of these games. I'm not that old, but I do remember Johnny Unitas being one of the most popular football players on the planet, as was Roman Gabriel. And these two teams were quite the rivals. In 1967, they played to a 24-24 tie. Both teams finished that year with 11-1-2 records. In that game, Unitas threw for 206 yards and 1 TD. Roman Gabriel, 256 yards and 3 TDs. Jack Snow had an 80-yard TD catch. What did the Colts do last year? Well, they started out 3-5-1, and that got Coach Frank Reich fired, and I think that was a mistake. That guy's a heck of a coach. Jeff Saturday took over. Remember, they got a lot of criticism for that. Saturday, an ex-player with no coaching experience. He wins his first game and then loses the next 7, so they finish 4-12-1, good enough for 3rd place in the fairly awful AFC South. And they had that remarkable game against the Vikings December 17th, the biggest blown lead in NFL history. They are up 33-0 at halftime, and they lose in overtime 39-36. Last year, they were pretty mediocre on offense and defense, not especially good. at the run or the pass or defending either of them. Matt Ryan started 12 games for them. Sam Ehlinger started 3 and Nick Foles 2. Jonathan Taylor, probably the consensus best back in the league prior to the 2022 season, only played in 11 games, rushed for over 800 yards. Michael Pittman, their leading receiver, 99 catches for 925 yards and 4 TDs. DeForest Buckner, the ex-49er, and Zaire Franklin, the cornerstones of that defense, as was Yannick Ngakoue, who had 9.5 sacks. Their new coach is Shane Steichen out of the Eagles organization. Reggie Wayne, by the way, is their wide receivers coach. Departures, well, they lost Matt Ryan. They lost linebacker Bobby Okereke to the Giants for big money. Their number 2 receiver, Paris Campbell, has moved on to the Giants as well. And Rodney McLeod, the ex-Ram, left for the Cleveland Browns. I really liked their 2023 draft. Some guys that I had identified that the Rams might be interested in. Of course, they took Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall. The big cornerback out of Kansas State, Julius Brents. I thought he would be a good fit for the Rams. Josh Downs, a wide receiver out of North Carolina. Colts, known for the offensive lineman, added another one, Blake Freeland out of BYU, an offensive tackle. And the defensive lineman everybody was falling in love with out of Northwestern, Adetomiwa Adebawore. They ended up with 12 picks overall. Free agent signings, 2 ex-Rams, Samson Ebukam, the edge rusher, and Matt Gay, the kicker, got big money from the Colts. And they added Gardner Minshew from the Eagles, who will probably open up as a starter, but Anthony Richardson will eventually be the starter there. By week 1, hey, who knows? Could happen. Key players on offense, for now it's Gardner Minshew until Anthony Richardson's ready to go. Jonathan Taylor, obviously the big guy on offense, one of the best running backs in the league, but he has those contract problems, and neither side seems willing to budge on that. So Taylor holding out for now, and the Colts, as insurance, has signed Kenyon Drake. Michael Pittman, we already mentioned, but with the Colts, on offense anyways, it's really about their offensive line, and they have 3 really good ones, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Braden Smith. Of course, they've added yet another one, the rookie Blake Freeland. They also have the big tight end coming back for a second year, Jelani Woods, 6'7", 253. He is really tough for defenses to deal with. On defense, Shaquille Leonard is a beast at linebacker, and DeForest Buckner up front. SoCal connections, well, we already mentioned Ebukam and Gay. They also have on the roster Ethan Fernia, a wide receiver out of UCLA. He was a running back at UCLA, converted to wide receiver. And of course, Pittman is out of USC. Our old friend Jake Funk trying to earn a roster spot there as well. Their schedule is the 4th easiest. They open up with the Jags at home, and then they get the Texans and Ravens. After that, the Rams, Titans, Jags, and Browns. The Saints, Panthers, and Patriots before their bye. Bucks, Titans, Bengals, Steelers, and they close with the Falcons, Raiders, and Texans. So I know I went through that fast, but there's a lot of opportunities for wins there. They get the Texans twice, of course. The Browns, everybody's excited about the Browns, more so than I am. Patriots could be a down year for them. Could be a down year for the Titans as well, and they get them twice. The Bucks could be a bad football team. The Raiders and Falcons, not sold on either of them either. So not a really formidable schedule at all for the Indianapolis Colts. And when you look at this roster and this team, you're thinking 4 or 5 wins. Then you look at the schedule and you understand why the over-under win total is 6.5. Makes perfect sense. Fearsome 4 keys to the Colts season. Well, they need to get Jonathan Taylor in the running game going. That was their bread and butter. And when he got hurt last year, everything fell apart. But before that can happen, of course, they got to get that contract situation settled. And it's gotten a little bit nasty. The agent and the Colts front office tweeting back and forth. A lot of bitterness emerging. And if they can't get Taylor back into camp and they have to roll with Kenyon Drake, I don't know. This could be a sour season for the Indianapolis Colts. Fearsome key number 2 is how quickly Anthony Richardson comes around. Assuming he comes around, assuming he's the real deal. You know, he has the athletic profile that scouts and coaches fall in love with. The problem is his accuracy, his consistency. Didn't really demonstrate that in college, but he'll get his chance with the Colts. It's just a matter of, are they going to push him along and get him on the field sooner rather than later? And when they do, if he performs. Fearsome key number 3 is, I think they need to pull off a couple of early wins. When you have a new coach, maybe not high expectations, but if they want to get to the playoffs this year, if they want to make a push, if they want to be relevant at all, they have to find a way to win a couple of early games. They open up with the Jags. Maybe they can steal a win there. Then they get the Texans, the Ravens, and Rams after that. Don't think they're going to win either of those games, right? We certainly hope not. Then the Titans, Jags again, and the Browns. If they can find a way to win a couple of those games even, maybe 3, they could be on a roll. Well, they could get on a roll later in the year, but when you have a new coach, a lot of changes, I think early wins are important. Fearsome key number 4, the defense has to be better. They were pretty mediocre last year. They added Brents, the cornerback, and Adebawore, the defensive lineman, and they'll help. They're going to probably start right away, at least get a lot of snaps. Defense needs to round into form. When you got a running game, a great offensive line, you just want to play fundamental defense. You're hoping the offense runs down the clock, shortens the game. Your defense doesn't have to be spectacular, just pretty good. That's what they need from their defense. Final word on the Colts. Like I said, first glance, it's going to be a challenge for this team. Second glance, their schedule is very welcoming, shall we say. If things break right for this team, they could win 7 games. They need to play sound football, rely on their running game and Jonathan Taylor, hope their D is at least average, and just wait for Anthony Richardson to break through. And if he does, maybe he can lead them to a couple of late victories as well. I'm going to go on the high side for the Colts. I'm going to pick 7 wins and 10 losses. One of those losses to the Rams, of course, right? That's got to happen. Rams are going to need a win in that game on the road in Indianapolis, but I still think the Colts get to 7 wins. I love their offensive line. Not sure about their coach. That'll take a year or 2 to figure out, but I'm going Indianapolis Colts, 7 wins, 10 losses. One of those losses to our Los Angeles Rams, of course. Now, if they don't figure out this Jonathan Taylor situation, I'd probably knock them down to 6 wins, 11 losses. Certainly changes the personality of the team. Hey, but they still got that young, promising quarterback, very good offensive line, and a fairly weak schedule. So 7-10 with Taylor, 6-11 without. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. Visit our website at ramsup.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.
Music courtesy of the YouTube audio library. Tracks featuring Bar Crawl by Track Tribe. Buckeye Bonzai by Vans in Japan, and Crimson Fly by Huma.